Hello, ladies. Thank you again for joining me for another discussion. Tonight's topic is about women and abuse, what to do after a rape. I am sure some of you may be wondering, is she going to speak on a topic that she has absolutely no experience in? And no, I'm not. Some may be wondering, am I going to share a true story about myself? And actually I am, because I don't believe a topic of such importance and as devastating as an act as rape for any woman that has endured should be discussed by anyone except another woman that has experienced the same. You can get help or advice from other women who may have, some type of family therapy type experience or what have you. But I think that it really comes from the heart when it's someone who's actually experienced it. And it's even better if it's someone that experienced it and they have that type of knowledge that can actually help you to walk through something like that. So I'm going to start by being very vulnerable with you ladies tonight and telling you my story. Then I will follow it up with some suggestions on what to do after you've experienced such a tragic event. So just bear with me in telling my story. I've never done this in a sense where you never know where this audio could end up. And maybe if some people are wondering why am I being so personal in something that I'm not doing professionally. I mean, we all know this is not a professional. I'm not on live radio, but I think it's a start for me. I just really want to be able to share my life experiences and different situations to help other people. I love to talk. I love to write. Probably talk more than write. But so that's why I post things on my website. That's why I'm doing these little audio podcasts. Just to, you never know. Every one of us are unique, and you never know what you may have experienced. Even if it's the same as someone else, it's never exactly the same. It's always some type of verbal, something different about your situation than the next. And so you never know if you don't share what it is that maybe you could be holding some valuable piece of information that can help someone else. And I really just want to be able to not hold anything in. I don't want to hold information that possibly can help someone else. Even if it's a little embarrassing for me or it's a little touchy for me. I mean, really, these things don't define me. These experiences do not define me. So yes, I have been raped before, and it was at a very young age. But I'm getting ready to tell the story. So again, once I tell the story, I will go over some of the things that came to my mind as to what I would have done differently back then. All right. So I was 15 years old, and I was staying over a friend's house for a couple of weeks in the summer. I recall going with my friend to a nearby neighborhood to someone's home to pick up her sister's EK glasses. I know some of you remember those EK glasses. That's probably dating us a little bit, but anyway, that she says she left the night before. Okay, so her sister says she left these glasses over this young man's house the night before. This is my friend's older sister I'm speaking of, who sent us on this errand. Well, we arrived and the older guy let us in. Seeing how I didn't know him, I was a tad uncomfortable, so I stayed standing at the front door while my friend went further into the gentleman's home asking about the glasses. The young man, I noticed, never really answered her question right away. He just started to speak about something that was on the television. Maybe it was a music video or something back then. I don't know. I can't quite recall it. What I do remember was feeling we really should get these glasses and get back to her house because her mom had told us not to be long because she was making breakfast. This is when I noticed that there was someone fully covered up and asleep on the couch next to where I was standing at the door. I hadn't really noticed this person or this, the couch itself before because I was only focused on my friend and the guy, who opened the door, whose house I'm assuming it was. My mind was really on getting those glasses and leaving, okay? But no, she's young too, and she's listening to this older guy talk about what was on the television, and apparently it was something she was interested in because their eyes were glued to the TV. Well, I didn't know at the time who was sleeping on that couch, but I could tell you ladies, I found that out later, okay? So now I am asking her again, can we go now? And where are the glasses that he had that belonged to your sister? I mean, this is exactly what I said. But apparently, this drew attention to me. I mean, and I would have to say, sort of in a negative way, based off what happened next. The next thing I know, this guy gets up and comes over, excuse me, to where I'm standing at the front door. And he starts telling me how pretty my eyes are. And he's wondering what color panties I wore, which, needless to say, made me very uncomfortable. I don't have to tell you, I was really starting to get afraid. But guess what? I tried to play it cool because they were laughing as if it was a joke. At that age, and I'm sure you all remember being that age, I was 15, remember, it was uncool to freak out about something that was supposed to be a joke. So although my insides was jumping, I gave a nervous smile. And he then began to pull on me, saying that he would like to speak to me upstairs. And, it was kind of like a light pull on my arm, like, oh, hey, I want to speak to you upstairs. I said, no, in the nicest way possible. Then she says, he likes you. And then I said, that's nice, but I don't want to go upstairs. I'm trying to still play it cool, but at the same time, I'm trying to say, hey, no, I'm not comfortable with this. Then I realized he began to pull harder. And this is when I knew, I think I just knew then. If no one else figured it out, I did. That this was no game. And my freedom of choice was being taken away from me. So then I made it really obvious. I was now panicking. And I shouted, get off, and no, I don't want to go upstairs. I tried to put a little bit more, bass and oomph in it, hopefully to scare him off. This is when I'm assuming it registered to her that something was wrong, and it was not a joke. Because she said, okay, stop. She said no, and he just ignored her. And by this time, I'm noticing I'm much closer by now, and I don't know how it happened, but apparently by the pulling, I'm much closer to the bottom of those stairs in his living room than I am to that front door I was once felt so safe standing next to. I glanced at her, and I believe somehow it really started to sink in for her because I saw fear and panic in her face. So she grabbed my other arm, and they played tug of war, ladies, for I don't know how long with me. He started screaming to whoever was on the couch to get up and help him. Okay. At this point, she is screaming, I am screaming, and he is yelling in anger for her to let go. In the corner of my eye, I see these sheets just kind of like fly up in the air that was covering whomever was sleeping on that couch, remember? And the next thing I know, she was being pulled away by another guy. And I'm being yanked and threatened to go up the stairs. I'm feeling pain in one of my arms. And I realized there's no way I can get away. And I was too scared, honestly, to fight back. Because I believed the things that he was saying to me. I don't really recall all of them now, but I remember the threatening things he was saying. I believed that he would do those things if I had fought back. I always thought about it in hindsight, later on after the incident, should I have fought back? But honestly, at that particular moment, I went limp and decided that I would just let it happen, and then I could leave. I should have never been there anyway, and it was all my fault. That's exactly what I was thinking in my mind. I somehow disconnected from the scene at that point. Once I disconnected, everything for me went in slow motion. I can recall being led to a bedroom. Don't remember going up the steps still, but I was being led to a bedroom that I realized must have been his parents' room. Probably, even if it was a single parent, maybe it had to be his mom, if anything, because I recall seeing women's clothes hanging on the back of the door. I recall seeing perfume bottles and other types of women products on the dresser. So that's where I got my assumption that it probably was his mom's room, because it definitely was not a young man's room. He laid me back on the bed, and well, you know the rest. Okay. When he was done with what he was doing, he started to tell me that he was sorry. Oh yeah, he started to tell me he was sorry and asking me, was I all right? I could tell you now, and I didn't say a word. I never looked him in his face. I was only 15, ladies, remember? So I knew, even at 15, this was seriously a little crazy talk after what he had just done. Like, I knew something was not quite right. Then he left the room. Excuse me. Okay. Now, this next scene is where I can tell you guys, I believe was the most devastating for me. I'm sure you're probably thinking, well, what just happened wasn't devastating? Well, it actually was, but when you understand what I'm getting ready to tell you, you'll know why. There was a degree of even more devastating if you can get that, okay? I slowly began to have some confidence at that time that this ordeal, this event that I had just went through was over. And so I started to slowly get up. I mean, I was still in a daze, you guys. I still was kind of feeling disconnected. I'm sure I don't remember everything I was thinking at that time, but I'm sure you can imagine. I started to pull up my little clothes. I wasn't totally naked, I just only had from the bottom down. And I can hear my friend screaming outside. I'm only assuming her voice still kind of sounded far away to me. So I'm only assuming she was either down still, partially up those stairs, or at the bottom of those stairs, but she was not near that door. I can tell you that. They wouldn't let her all the way up the stairs. Asking was I okay. She was still telling them that she was going to tell her mother and call the police, but I could not answer her at that time. I still felt disconnected, and all I wanted to do was just leave and forget it happened. I remember talking to myself in my head at that time, saying, I was telling myself, you will be fine, as I was trying to pull up my clothes. When in walks the other guy. Yep, apparently it was his turn as well. So, what happened next. And I can tell you by this time, ladies, I laid on my back and the tears just flowed out like buckets of water, okay? I never made a sound, never. But I was no longer in that disconnect state I mentioned earlier because I was not mentally prepared. If you can understand what I'm saying, I mean, it took me years to really understand it, but I was not mentally prepared for the second one to do that to me. I'm not saying it was okay for the first one to do it. For you younger ladies that may hear this, I'm just saying that this is how traumatic I guess it was because I'd already had a warning and knew I couldn't get away from the first thing, the first incident with the first young man. Somehow my mind told me to deal with it. Somehow, I don't know. So of course I became aware later in life during my healing process that disconnected or not, the first violation was going to still need to be dealt with. But ladies, the fact that somehow I wasn't expecting the second violation threw me into somewhere dark because when that was over and I was finally allowed to walk out of that room, all I can recall was walking down the stairs. I do remember leaving and going down the stairs. And my friend running behind me, telling me, we need to hurry. We need to tell my mom and call the police. As we walked down the street, I felt a liquid-like substance sliding down my leg. I just stopped. I didn't know what to do. I felt this foreign substance sliding down my leg. I started crying and telling her I was bleeding. But when I checked, right there in a panic, on a shaded sidewalk in the summer, I withdrew a hand with wet, clear liquid on it. Okay? Ladies, I had no idea what that was at the time. I started to beg her not to tell anyone. It took a while to get her to listen to me, but I begged her not to tell anyone. I was probably just as hysterical about her not telling anyone as I was about what happened. So that tells you, 15-year-old not thinking too straight. So she reluctantly agreed to keep my secret. I found out a couple of days later what the liquid really was, and that the two guys were no more than 17, 18 years of age. And I will say, for those that probably don't understand what I'm saying, the liquid was not blood, okay? It was a substance, and I don't know if I could say the name on here because I want young ladies that may listen to this to know and not be freaked out. But if you've taken any health classes, sexual education classes, then you've heard the word semen. That comes from young men. So that's what that was, okay? For those that would not know. Now, thank God I didn't get pregnant or receive a disease from either one of the young men. I was actually 21 years old, okay? And my son was a baby when I finally told my mom what had happened those many years ago. Although I did receive an experience that I would carry with me for years to come. Okay, so that's the end of my story. So let's talk about a few things that now in hindsight I realize I should have done differently and what you can do now if this happened to you or to someone that you know. And let me just let you know, I'm not speaking textbook. I'm not claiming to be an expert. I'm speaking from experience. And that no book or anyone with book knowledge can take from me, okay? I'm speaking from experience. And I'm speaking from love because I told you early on, I do this for others. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm not getting anything for this.